We've actually got a fight choreographer, Benaiah, who is certified in fight choreography and actually has a lot of that knowledge and research. So going through the different types of swords, whether it's a rapier, whether it's a broadsword, how they fought. One of the things we discovered in the process when I was going through armor, we tend again to see armor now, and it's highly decorative, has all of the crests and everything built into it. And my research showed that that actually really didn't occur other than in pageants, because you wanted very smooth armor so that the lance or the sword would be deflected. If you had all of this detail, that was where it would catch a lance or a sword and kill you. So you wanted to avoid that. So the proper armor in battle was very smooth and not decorated really at all.
One of the, I guess, motivations for the types of violence we're going to use, one of the ideas or inspirations, I suppose, for the violence was some of the dark violence that's on the Game of Thrones show right now. It's a dark medieval world, lots of fantasy, lots of magic and darkness, and wanting the violence to be a little more surprising and a little more shocking than it usually is in Camelot. It's a beautiful show with a lot of really nice music, so that we tend to forget that it was a dark, violent, scary world that these stories were taking place in. So he definitely wanted me to work a little bit more towards that, that idea that it's not necessarily a happy place all the time, even though we're singing. The swords that we've got over here sort of fit that time period better than what may or may not have been the historical King Arthur. But there's been some really wonderful History Channel programs that I've watched on what may or may not have been the actual King Arthur, and I've read quite a bit about the different time periods that he's supposed to have lived in. And what we're doing then is heightening that by putting it several hundred years later and making the clothes really fancy and bright and fitting into that high Middle Ages vision that we have of King Arthur and the Camelot story. The research that I've done specifically about the kinds of fighting that knights would have done back then is, I'm a member of a local group that actually does medieval research into these medieval fight manuals. So my research is kind of also my martial arts hobby. I get to fence with two-handed swords and fight with people who are actually trying to hit me, and we wear safety equipment, of course, but it allows the fights that I then choreograph to look more realistic and to look more violent and more accurate, I suppose. More realism is kind of what a lot of people are going for. We can do a show like Cyrano de Bergerac, where everything can be sort of heightened and light and fancy, or we can do that same show very dark and very realistic. It just depends on the vision of the director. It all depends on sort of what time period the director wants to put a show in, and then that's coordinated with the costumes, because it's very specific. If I wanted to bring swords that were from a completely different time period than Claire wanted to design the costumes, that might be jarring. Many people in the audience probably wouldn't know, but our job is to try and present a consistent design. So when Claire said, "This is the look of the piece," and I got to see drawings of the costumes and samples of the fabric, the style of those clothes told me exactly the kind of swords I need to bring and the types of shields that they would use as well.